Cool. We got another noise in the ear. It's Antonio4230, resubscribed for 20 months, saying, between a blind painter and a deaf musician, who makes the better art? Oh, there's a real question for you. The question is, at what point did they become blind or deaf? As a musician, I feel like I could be deaf and still play an instrument, and if you knew theory and stuff, you could still write melodies. You could still hear it inside your head. Now, as not being an artist, maybe I can't speak to the same, but the physical act of interacting with the space requires so heavily on the eyes. I think a lot of music is perhaps more internalized. It's not all just in your ear. It's in theory, it's in the understanding of notation, and I don't know if it's quite like that with paints and painting. So I would say the deaf musician makes the better art. And I think that is a clever answer as well. A clever answer. It was well thought out. Okay, I didn't just say something willy-nilly. I gave you my reasoning. People are saying wasn't Beethoven deaf. I believe he could hear, but just not a lot. Like he could hear low bassy noises, but yeah. Not with modern art. The artist might get paid more, says Music Phoenix. Yeah, there's that. There's that, yes, possibly. I always thought I read that Beethoven held a metal rod in his teeth to feel the vibrations of the music. But that was from the internet, so, says Stoney. What I seem to remember hearing, and just, trying to sort of figure it out, but I seem to remember hearing that he was deaf but could hear like low rumbling noises and really loved the low rumbling of like a piano or whatever. So could sort of like hear but in a different way. But yeah, I can't even remember where I heard that. It's just a vague memory in my head. So it should not be taken as fact. He felt the low notes vibrating through the floor and the piano, says Oscar Mannon. Well, that would back up what I said, right? I would have loved hearing some of the masters play their own music, says Randy. I would love to know how differently they would have performed it, because a lot of the music survives because it's been written, and then someone has to interpret the writing to some extent. Now, there's a fair amount of detail that can be conveyed, and I'm guessing probably the difference would be like mostly aesthetic, or maybe a little bit on the timing front. I'm not entirely sure. But they keep track of tempo and stuff like that when you do music writing. So there's a lot you can convey. Beethoven didn't go completely deaf until after 1815, but then he had written most of his symphonies. Ah. Right, yeah. I always thought he was deaf from a child, like as a kid. Maybe that was one of the other musicians. Anyway, I do enjoy classical music. He was losing his hearing all through his childhood, says The4V7. Maybe he then got fully deaf as an adult. Who knows? Someone knows. Someone probably wrote it down. It's in a book. There was actually a lot more improvisation, says Yay. There could be that as well. Yeah, that's the other thing. If you're playing someone else's music, you're probably not going to improvise. You're going to stick to the plan. If you're the person who wrote the music, you might just feel like playing that bit a bit different today, because you know it. It's your music. It's a little bit more inflexive.